Let me just make some general comments, and then I'll open it up for some questions. Credibility comes with competitive success. Credibility comes with competitive success. I don't think there's any question about it. I look back with Coach Horn, and there's a lot of tremendous accomplishments he has done at the University of South Carolina. And he's had his fingerprints on things that we can be very proud of. Our academic success has been a dramatic change. That is important to me. Our young people do come here to get their degree. We want them to have a positive experience and to be able to receive their degree, and he was totally committed to that. I'm very proud of what he's done. We've made great strides academically, and we graduate our young people. He runs a program with character. I think that's extremely important. You have to have character, and you have to develop character in your young people, and I think Darren did a wonderful job. Ethically and integrity. In a sport, sometimes it's rather difficult to maintain those standards. Ethics and integrity is extremely important, and he ran a program with integrity. It's always sad when you deal in this business and when you're dealing with people. He has a wonderful family. He has great kids. He has a terrific wife, and you hate to see something like this happen. But Darren did a lot of positive things for the University of South Carolina. We have 3 of our 4 most visible sports competing on a very high level. That's our goal and our aspirations for our programs across the levels. We want to be able to be nationally prominent and to be able to battle for championships, and we want our men's basketball program to do the same thing. We've got to believe we can do it, and I think we can do it. We're making the investments in our facilities all the way across the board. From 6 years ago, our academic center, the work that we've done here in the Colonial Life Arena with the renovated offices, the locker rooms here. So we've made a commitment because we really do want to have a basketball program that fulfills the aspirations of what our board wants, which is to be a top 25 program. Hope. I talked about hope a lot. And, hope, you saw what I saw as far as the basketball season was concerned. I didn't go to the games with blinders on. I went there, and I wanted our student athletes to be able to succeed on a high level. Unfortunately, we didn't competitively, and credibility comes with competitive success. I think college athletics, success on the field of competition and success in the classroom are not mutually exclusive, but you have to have a balance. And you have to be able to compete, and to compete on a high level. And unfortunately, we did not do that this year. And obviously our fans were sensitive to that, the enthusiasm. We didn't have the positive energy going forward, and we didn't have the hope out there for the program. So I understand that. I want to see our student athletes succeed, and I want to see our coaches succeed. But unfortunately, in this business, sometimes you have to take your program in a different direction, and this is one of these days. As I told everybody, the evaluation was going to be through the entire season. And at the end of the season today, I sat down with Coach Horn, and I said to him that, similar to what I'm saying to you, and I really feel, having been in this business for many years, you get to a point in time, you got to turn the corner. And I really don't think we got to where we were able to turn the corner. And so therefore, when that happens, it just becomes more and more difficult to do it. You're sort of a defining moment, a defining time in the history of programs, whether that's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I can't pinpoint and tell you exactly when it is, but having been involved as a student athlete, as a coach, and as an administrator for many, many years, you get to a point where you really got to be able to show progress and to turn that corner and to have that hope where people are enthusiastic, people are excited, they want to be committed to the program. It's just like women's basketball. We saw women's basketball when I first got here to what it is today. Huge amount of interest, and our fans deserve to put a good product out there. And the last night at the selection show, this place was packed. We had 400, 500, 600 people here. And some people would have told me that would have happened 4 or 5 years ago. If I were to say that, I think a lot of people wouldn't say that would ever happen. So our women's basketball program, our baseball program, our football program, all of our programs, for the most part, have really connected, and our fans are terrific. And it's our responsibility to put in a program out there that our fans can really relate to. If a push comes to shove, I'm going to err in the fact of a program running it the right way, at graduating the young people and running a program with integrity and those kind of things. If push comes to shove, is winning over that, then I'm going to err in that way. But in the same light, we do have to put a product out there that is successful, and I do understand that. The $2.4 million buyout is a substantial number. I have to swallow when I think of 2.4 million, but in reality, that's the arena we compete in. Whether you like it or you don't, that's the arena we compete in for that amount of money. If you go back 6 years ago when I first got here, and we didn't really have any reserve account, one of the focuses I try to do is build up the reserve and to protect ourselves somewhere down the road, whether we end up not having as many football games, or we have a bad season, or we have weather, or some of those things we don't control and we don't have success, then we've tried to protect ourselves. And this is why we built up the reserve account, because if you're in this arena and unfortunately the program isn't as productive as you want it to be, then you have financial vulnerability. And so to protect the totality of things, you've got to be able to have a reserve account which you can handle situations like we're having to go through. That is the financial arena we're in. Like it or not, that's what we're playing. When you're in the SEC, it's good news, bad news. The good news is the best league in the country. The bad news is the best league in the country. And, sometimes it's a challenge. Players, the profile. I sat down with the players, and as far as going forward, life is full of experiences. The successful people learn from them, and that's what I told our players today. We want to learn from what has taken place. And I asked them to develop a profile, and what do they want as we go forward. It's the way I've always done it. I think it's important. And I told them, as I've told them, no matter if it's women's tennis or it's football or it's basketball, I think it's important to get feedback from the student athletes. And as I said to them, they're not going to pick the coach, nor are their parents going to pick the coach. But their feelings are important to me. I want to know how they feel. I want to know what are their thoughts, because I want their fingerprints to be on the direction that we go. Now, and we just did it this morning. I just did it just a while ago, so I don't really have the specifics to pass on to you, but I've asked them, and I asked Al Daniel, who I will say later on is our academic person. He's a former basketball coach, former player at Furman. He's going to be the liaison with the basketball team. And, so the players will be able to talk to Coach Daniel. They're going to talk to me. If they want me, they can know how to get a hold of me. And I'll be able to lay their concerns, because there's going to be a lot of rumors, a lot of innuendos, and a lot of things that are going out that will be out there. And I will be able to help to allay some of their concerns. And some of the rumors, I'll be able to address them. But their feelings are important. They won't pick the coach, but I want to know how they feel. So we sat down. Obviously, we want to recruit. We want somebody that can recruit, that's got connections in this area. We want somebody that can develop players, and really develop players to the extent that they need to be developed in this league. So I talked a little bit about Al. As far as the search is concerned, I think you know me well enough to know that we're going to do it as quickly as possible, however long it takes to get the right person in here. Yes, that's double talk. I'm just telling you, that's double talk. But I'm not going to be painted in a corner. I'll do however long it takes to get the right person. But I do understand the sense of urgency, and we'll try to expedite as quickly as possible. As far as the confidentiality of it, we got to be very sensitive. And there's a thing I would like to ask of you. I understand what's going to go, the speculation that goes out there. That's just part of the nature of the beast. The speculation, who's this person or who's that person? This is a possibility. I appreciate that. I respect that. Please respect me. There's nobody going to know but me who's going to go out there. Yes, I'm having some people on the outside help me. So please don't say in your reports, well, a source close to me says this, because that will not be true. So please don't say that. And, we want to be respectful of each other. I respect the job. I respect what you got to do. I respect the speculation that you got to do. But there is a confidentiality factor I have to deal with. The more open it becomes, the less chance I'm going to be able to recruit people to come to the University of South Carolina because of the confidentiality standpoint. You all know that. But I know there's an insatiable appetite for people that want to know what's going on as far as people. But do understand, respect the position I've got to be in. I can't talk to you about people. And I won't talk to you about people. And as we go forward, I want to make sure I have the pool as large as I possibly can. I think, obviously, at South Carolina, there's some people that, well, you can't win at South Carolina. I've heard that before. As a matter of fact, the cheer before I got to TCU in 1998 was 2-4-6-8 score before we graduate. And that was the cheer for the 1997 season. But that didn't deter us. We kept on working at it. We tried to build a program. The same thing with women's basketball here, football. A lot of firsts we've been able to achieve, and men's basketball is no different. Are some sports a little bit more difficult than other sports? Sure. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. But we want to try to put a program out here that we have all 4 of our most visible programs competing on a very high level. The pay will be driven by the marketplace. I'm in a little bit better financial position than I was 5 years ago. I have a little more flexibility than where I was. So understand, it's taken time to get us into the position that we're in. What do I look for? It's integrity, work ethic, and intelligence. Those are the cornerstones as far as I'm concerned. It always has been and it always will be. That's the kind I'm looking for a teammate. I'm looking for a person that will, we're all in this together. We want to try to achieve. We've got a great chemistry and rhythm in the athletic department right now, especially as I've ever been. And that goes all the way from Steve Spurrier, all the way to Beverly Smith, our softball coach, all the way from Raymond Harrison in our academics to people that work out on our grounds. Folks, we got a really neat athletic department. So I want to bring in somebody that can also be part of the team. I think that's really important. We're going to honor everything for our assistant coaches, and I told Darren we'll honor them. I'm going to meet with them later on this week. That's part of our responsibility. It's a very difficult time for assistant coach. It's a very difficult time for people. We have to be sensitive to that. And so I will sit down with our coaches, and I will talk with them, and I will help them out. I'll make sure we're going to honor everything. I'll do everything I possibly can to help them. This is a time that people need help. And it is the nature, it is unfortunate, it is the business. I understand that, but an unfortunate side of the business is that in this transitional period, we want to be supportive at the University of South Carolina. That's the way I've always tried to do it. And Coach Horn did a lot of positive things here at the University of South Carolina. Were we as successful competitively as we'd like to have been? No. But there are other things, some of the intangible things, and some things I think are very important. But again, you've got to be able to, they're successful competitively and successful in the classroom are not mutually exclusive. We've got to be able to find a way to be able to do both of them as we try to move the program forward. All right, with that said, I'll entertain any kind of questions I might be able to. But do understand, I'm not going to get into talking about prospective coaches. You understand the business, so you may ask me, but you're going to understand that I probably will not answer. And as far as we go forward, I want to bring in somebody that can recruit. I want to bring somebody that can really develop our players. Obviously, with a connection in this area, makes a difference. Okay, with that said, yes, Andy.
Eric, what was the tipping point, and when did you make this decision?
Well, I don't want to say there was a specific point. It's the momentum. You just see what the momentum, and hopefully the momentum, as the year progressed, I see the energy and the enthusiasm begin to dissipate. I don't think there was one specific thing. I would never make a decision on one thing. It's a combination. It's the totality of it.
When did you make the decision?
I told Dr. Pestides Sunday that I recommended that we take the program in a different direction.
Eric, having gone through a hire and firing, is there a recognition that this job is extremely difficult?
Well, I think this job is a challenge. I think it's got huge potential. The positive thing is we do have a history and tradition of success in the past. The person coming in, I don't think there's any question about it. They'll have their challenges, but I really reflect back and I look through some of our other sports. They've had challenges also, but they've been able to overcome them.
Eric, will Darren's buyout be offset if he takes another job? Also,
There's no mitigating clause.
And what's the size of that reserve account that you were referring to?
Well, that's just something that we've had. It's very publicized. It's 5% of our operating budget, which is over 12. I don't know exactly what it is, but over $12 million. We built that up over time to prepare ourselves for something like this so we could protect our program so we didn't have to go in and invade operating budgets.
Eric, last time around.
Last time around.
Well, but it sounds like the same policy as far as looking for the coach. You want to talk to the players. You did that last time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything different in the search this time in terms of your parameters of what you're doing and the structure?
Well, I think,
if not, what happened last
I think, Bart, what now that I'm going to have a little more flexibility from a financial standpoint, where I don't think really people grasped that when I first got here, and as time has progressed, now I'm in a position that there is some flexibility there that maybe there wasn't before. And that might, if you look at it, if you look to hire an assistant coach, you have and I've done that in the past, you have a greater margin of error because you don't have a measurable track record. You do, but not to the extent. If you hire a coach that's been a coach in one program, a mid-level program or whatever, you have a track record, but you still have you don't have as much error as you do just for assistant coach. The odds are in your favor, but you still don't know. As you progress up the food chain, your error, the chance of making a mistake aren't as great, but this is not an exact science. It's an art. And, I look through my career, sometimes I've thought, boy, I'll tell you what, we were right on target, and the hire didn't turn out to be that way. But, maybe they didn't win, they won the press conference, but they didn't win the war. And there are some people that maybe struggle a little bit in the press conference, but turned out to be phenomenal. You just don't know. And you know that in hiring people. You just don't know what you're getting into. You're not sure how they're going to do it under pressure, how they're going to do it when they're the head coach, how they respond and react. You try to get as much due diligence as you possibly can, but you really, to a certain extent, you don't know.
Eric, when you spoke to the players this morning, did any of them express a desire to transfer?
Well, what I said to them, if you wanted to, my thinking on something like this, if you wanted to transfer, what I would do, as I've always done in the past, is wait till the new coach is hired. I mean, I said to them, anytime you have a transition, anytime you have a paradigm shift, you have anxiety. It's totally understandable, no matter who you work for or whatever situation. I said, I've worked for 10 presidents. I understand the transitional part of it. So, but what I want you to do is when the coach is hired, you get a chance to develop a relationship at that point in time, somewhere down the road in the spring semester. If you feel this is best for you, then I obviously will support the student athlete.
Eric, how did Darren take the news? How did the meeting go, and what was his reaction? Was he kind of expecting it?
Well, Darren's class, and Darren's top of the line, and he handled it like a gentleman. He handled it very classy. He was disappointed, as you would expect. He was apologetic that he couldn't get the program turned in the direction that all Gamecocks people want it to be. But he understood. I mean, he's been doing this a long time. You've got to create hope.
Eric, was there anything over the last few weeks that this team could have done that would have reversed this decision, or had the momentum, as you say, been pushing that, trending that way?
The momentum was trending that way, but honestly, he has done other things that I think are real important, that he's just had to give me some ammunition. And I just didn't get the ammunition. And if we had success, because, like I said to you, I'm going to err on person that's doing things the right way, academically, ethically, character-wise, and all those kind of things. But in the same light, I've got to have some ammunition to proceed with the program forward. And as the year progressed, obviously, the window of opportunity began to get smaller.
Eric, when you talked to the players, did they say anything about the style of basketball they would like to play going forward?
They talked about some things. I don't want to get into them right now, but I asked them. I said, what are the things that you want? What are the things that are important to you? And Al took notes as we talked with him.
Eric,
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the competitiveness, the wins and losses, the lack of hope. Was there anything outside of those parameters that led you to the decision?
Outside of the parameters?
Anything off the court?
No. Good question. You look at a program, you look at the totality of a program, and and you look at, no matter who the person is, whether it's Coach Spurrier, Coach Tanner, Coach Staley, myself, or whatever, you look at our decisions, the decisions that we make, the judgment call that we make. So you factor all those kind of things into consideration. There was not a specific thing, no, but you look at across the waterfront. How does a person respond to certain situations? We're all going to make mistakes. I mean, I got erasers on all my pencils, and I make them, our student athletes make them all the way across the board. The key is to learn from them.
You mentioned hope. Do you hope the new hire will help put more fans in the seats?
I sure do. I do.
Was player turnover an issue in this? There's been at least 9 players who have left the program in one form or another since Coach Horn has gotten here, and that's been mentioned by a couple of board members I've spoken with.
And what was your,
Yeah, was that an issue in this? Was just the idea that there had been significant player turnover?
well, no, I just looked at I just looked, there wasn't a specific thing, and it was more of a broad, it's a broad stroke, a broad brush is how I tried to evaluate the program. You know, you got to take a lot of things into consideration when you look at, there wasn't a specific, but, you know, the way the way I judge everybody in the athletic department, and people notice is patterns. Whether it's a student athlete, as you know, when I deal with a student athlete's got some issues, has that athlete made a mistake, or has they got a continuation of making mistakes? And that's how I try to look at people, whether they're employees or whether they're student athletes, because like I said earlier, we're all going to make mistakes. I can't sit here and tell you that I'm picture perfect. I've screwed up many times, and so hopefully I've learned from some of my screw-ups.
Eric, when you referred to people outside the athletic department who will be kind of aiding you in the search, were you referring to a search firm particularly?
As
or
I said last time, I
other
didn't use a
individuals?
search firm. I said that. You know, I've had people help me, honestly, you know, people that really understand the basketball culture.
Two things I was thinking about. You didn't mention recruits for next year. Was that something you looked at? I'm assuming if you thought, boy, with these people we have coming in, it could turn around next year.
Again, that goes with momentum.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about momentum. We don't have real strong momentum, but we want to have more positive energy and momentum going forward.
And the other thing you talked about head coaches and whatnot, does that mean?
I missed a word. Sorry, say it again, Bart.
You talked about head coaches.
Mhm.
Does that, and you talked about coming up the food chain a little bit and what you can do now. Does that mean you would not consider a top assistant?
I'm not leaving. It's wide open. I want it diverse, and it's wide open. And but no, I'm not going into this say this particular person or that particular person, this characteristic. You know, what you want to do is go into the marketplace and you see what you think is a round peg and a round hole.
You mentioned the assistant coaches. Are you going to keep anybody around to run the day-to-day operations in this in-between time while you search for a new coach?
Well, what I'm going to do is 2 people. Kevin O'Connell, who's the administrator for men's basketball, will be involved in it, and then Al Daniel will be involved in it. And those 2 people will have their fingers on the pulse on what takes place. I will sit down with the coaches on Thursday. I'm going to sit down with everybody in the basketball staff. I think that's my responsibility, is to sit down with them and talk to them as a group and talk to them individually. And how can I help them as we move the program forward, as we talk about the program. I haven't been the coach, so there's a lot of things. I've got a heck of a learning curve, and not that I'm ever going to be able to learn exactly, but to have a grasp of what's going on and what some of the things that we need to be able to do.
Eric, is there any concern that maybe Coach Horn didn't have enough time to turn the program around? 4 years, some other coaches have had 7 years, 8 years, that kind of thing. And of course, Coach Calipari mentioned the idea that a coach may need 7 or 8 years in order to really show things. Is there any concern?
I don't, as I said to you earlier, Andy, I don't specific say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I mean, it just varies from individual. But I think there are some things that some things you got to, I think there's a call that you got to make in every program. And whatever program I've been, there comes to a determination point, sort of like the road not taken. And you've got to access, and there's a fork in the road, and you've got to be able to head it in the right direction. And there's sometimes that, and I don't say there's a specific time, but you've got to be able to show that you've got the foundation is there, and the different things, competitiveness, academics, and all those things are part of it, and you see the progress. So let's just flip it around. Let's say we were, I don't even want to go into the hypothetical part of it, because I don't answer hypothetical questions, so I'm getting ready to throw one out, which is inappropriate.
Eric, I realize hindsight's always 20/20, but any second thoughts, regrets about last year at this time when maybe momentum started to slide that,
I don't, Pete, you know me well enough, I try to make decisions on facts at that point in time. I think in this job, there's a lot of hindsight 20/20 that you can do, that everybody can do. It's just the visible nature of what we do. And sure, I'd like to be able to sit back and say, a lot of aspects, I could have done it this way, or I could have done that if I'd have known what the future, but that's really not fair.
How hard was this for you personally, having to fire one of your first hires here?
It doesn't matter my first hire. It's any time. Anytime when you deal with people, you deal with families, you deal with assistant coaches and families. This is not one of my joys. This is not something I really doing cartwheels about.
Any other questions? Speak now, Camille.
Yeah, and again, do understand, this is the last time you'll hear from me. And I'm sorry, some of you might get a little upset with me for this, but I really can't. You know the nature as I go forward. I've got to go and just be respectful of what I've got to do. And, you know, the more you, and I understand the speculation part of it. I just, that's the arena that we're in. But just be guarded and please be professional about it. And as we go through, because it does, to a certain extent, what you say